So Ross, your topic and what's your place for?
Hi everyone. You know what the average age of an American is? Anyone want to guess?
40.
Or real life.
40.
Yep, 38.5.
The average age.
The average age of an American is 38.5. And so when we went from 2020 to 2022, we dropped 1.4 million students. And over the 10 years to 2022, we lost 2.6 million students. In fact, graduating students in 2025, there'll be 3.93 million students graduating. That's going to be the highest point for the rest of eternity. So in education, we're all getting scared. We're kind of like, how do we get more students? And there's been a lot of political things within this country as well, and the cost of student education that started to put, I think, kids off that. And one of the things that our table was looking at was, what are we going to do for accountants, and how can we encourage more accountants into the profession? So we had a little bit of a chat on what we can do to try to lift that up. Not all is lost. I think you'll find that young people are pretty strategic anyway, and they're starting to know that. But there are some perceptions that we have within accounting. So chartered accountants contributed on this one rather than CPAs, but there's perhaps a little bit of lessons for CPAs to learn about that. So Ian made a comment that people like to major in finance because finance is considered as sexy and accounting is seen as boring. And it's interesting because I've got a bit of a research project going at the moment as well to ask people what's the first three words you think of when you hear of finance, and the first three words you think of when you hear of accounting. I haven't been able to get a lot of people to do it, but I did speak to a father and he said accounting's boring. I tell my kid to go and do engineering, but that finance is fun. Really? I don't think so. But anyway, that's me. Accountants in the US have also been perceived as more of tax people and bean counters. And when comparing the table's belief was comparing CAs to CPAs, the CAs were more principles-based, where CPAs were much more of a box-checking sort of process, so that it sort of loses its appeal with students there. The other things, hang on, sorry, I'm going blind in my old age, over 38. It's also seen as a very difficult course, and I get that perception from students that I teach, and that you've then got to go and do another qualification, and that next qualification step up. But if you go into a financial services company, you were saying, that they've got other qualifications that they need. As management, you would need a project management qualification. So I think we could sort of argue that with students. There's also a perception with students that the money, it's not even just for students, it's true, the money is poor in accounting. And people see that if they go into finance, they believe that they're going to get much more and possibly make millions per year. Peter made a very good point, and I think that this is appealing to students, that we want to see more of the social impact of business and the social damage that's caused by business, and that this would encourage more young people to do accounting, and I think that is something that I'm picking up from young people. Also, Sophie had said that young people don't know what accountants actually do, and that's really up to us as a profession then to get in there and do more mentoring with students, talking about our experiences and our career trajectories, something that we've been working on a little bit lately within CAW Network USA. Peter had said that there's been a dumbing down of accountants and we haven't actually celebrated their value. So the Chartered Accountant program is an incredible program that gets to the guts of what this is all about, but the CPA doesn't quite get there, and they've somewhat backpedaled on their responsibilities there. We really gave CPAs a hard time, didn't we? Mentorship was another one, giving trainees the opportunities then to connect with somebody who is already a CA or a CPA. There is some really good programs on that, and you'll probably find them in your own areas. I know that there's one here in New York as well for the junior achievement. And so if you get a chance to do volunteering with schools with junior achievement, they've got a really good financial literacy program that you can go into the schools as a chartered accountant, and work with the teacher and talk to students about, just basic personal finance, because that exposure to personal finance when they're young is really beneficial for them to actually understand what an accountant is and what an accountant does. Offer a program that's a voluntary sign-up. This is Sophie's idea, wasn't it? To give a presentation to students, and even perhaps have the students give the presentation to the firm so you can adopt a student. Bring back the apprenticeship articles model of the past. And then we always say get them young while they're at high school. And that's what we've covered. Has anybody else got any other thoughts?
Any questions or comments?
I think there's also the piece around very much, I think there's marketing, like you're saying, right? It's about building the awareness, but I think there's opportunities as well to have the students really get to how dynamic the work we do is, and the more we're using all these tools, and the more they can actually see them and experience them, to understand that it is a very dynamic and fascinating place to be, and it really sets you up for any role. That's where I know when I've spoken to people, and they'll start with that. They'll say, "Oh no, it's boring. It's just it's just bookkeeping," and then they'll take the accounting person. It's really difficult. And when I start to describe to them what life as a professional looks like, and the opportunities you have to travel worldwide, you look at us all here, there's a lot there that I think people don't necessarily get that picture, and there's surely an opportunity. But I think in playing up a lot of the technology, but also maybe as people qualify, really making it interesting for them. And so, yes, some of these tools that we've been talking about around AI give the opportunity to take what we saw maybe as the treasury out and make it more interesting, but every role is going to have bits of that. So I do think there's more awareness.
It's been a long-held perception. And then for travel, I think that's something that would be really interesting to kids. So if any of you actually want to do an interview with me, we are doing a bit of a series of interviewing young chartered accountants of, the places you'll go, the people you will see. That's something that can really appeal to young people.
I think I could probably yell.
Catch your voice. So last question, if we need to move to the next section.
So when I think about choosing to be an accountant, I think the CA was great because I started in Sydney, I moved to London. When I moved to London, people instantly recognized that I had a certain level of competency and they want to hire you. And it just so happens that that took me to America. And I don't think if I'd chosen another career, it wouldn't have opened up in the same way. And that's what, to me, really makes me grateful to be a CA.
I'll concur with that, given that I started off in Swansea, moved to London, moved to Zurich, moved to Brussels, moved to Denver, moved to Boston. So yes, you can go places. So Ross, thank you for that. And I would also like to add, to caveat, I know a number of really good CPAs who do a lot of really good stuff. It's just that we're looking here at comparing, I guess, as you're starting out in the profession. So thank you for that.